A sharp clang burst through the USS Gerald R. Ford's large mess hall, silencing 200 sailors' morning chatter. Trays crashed down, sending scrambled eggs and coffee spilling across the shiny steel floor in a widening, messy pool. Worthless. Lieutenant Connor Mitchell's voice thundered across the room, his face bright red with anger. You're a civilian worker, yet you're worse than any new trainee. Ashley Walker immediately dropped to her knees, her hands shaking as she reached for the scattered food in broken pieces. Her blonde hair, neatly tied back, couldn't quite hide a distinct scar that ran from behind her left ear down to her collarbone. It was a raised, uneven line that caught the mess hall lights. She remained silent, simply gathering the debris with precise, almost automatic movements, each one efficient despite the slight limp favoring her right leg. Just look at you, Connor sneered, moving closer, his gleaming boots now just inches from her busy finger. He pointed at the visible scar as she bent over. Ugly as sin. No wonder they only let you do cleanup work. Nobody wants to look at damaged goods like you. The mess hall fell into a tense quiet. Several sailors shifted uncomfortably, their jaw muscles tight with suppressed rage. But military rules held them still. No one challenged an officer, especially not Connor Mitchell, whose reputation for cruel punishment spread throughout the Pacific Fleet. Ashley kept collecting fragments, yet there was something in her manner, controlled, effective, automatically avoiding sharp edges with practiced ease. Her breathing stayed calm despite the shame, her hands rock steady, even with Connor's shadow looming over her. At the far entrance, Captain Mason Rodas watched, his eyes narrowed. He noticed what Connor completely missed, the way Ashley naturally adjusted for the ship's gentle sway, how her side vision tracked everyone in the room without turning her head, and the unconscious way she positioned herself with clear views to all exits. 20 minutes, Rodas murmured to himself, checking his watch. 20 minutes until everything changes on this ship. Connor kicked a piece of broken ceramic closer to Ashley with deliberate malice. Faster, Walker. We don't pay civilians to take all morning. Though looking at that limp, maybe we should have hired someone who can actually move properly. Ashley's hand paused for exactly one moment, the only sign the words had affected her. As she resumed her task. Her silence seemed to infuriate Connor more than any spoken reply could have. Lieutenant Mitchell, a young officer, Ensign Rachel Torres, stepped forward hesitantly. Perhaps I could help. Did I ask for your opinion, Ensign? Connor spun toward her, and Rachel instantly snapped to attention. This civilian needs to learn how things work on a warship. We don't coddle incompetence here. Ashley rose slowly. The collected debris was perfectly balanced on the tray, despite her supposed clumsiness. The slight favor to her right leg was barely noticeable unless you specifically looked for it. But Connor made sure everyone saw it by gesturing wildly. See that, everyone? Connor announced to his audience. This is what happens when procurement hires cheap contractors. We get the leftovers, the ones too broken for real work. Lieutenant Blake Harrison, the ship's weapons officer, chuckled from his table. Come on, Connor. Maybe she's got hidden talents. Maybe she can scrub the deck really nicely. Hidden talents? Connor laughed, the sound sharp and mocking. Look at her. She probably got that scar falling down some stairs. Probably told everyone it was some heroic story, but we all know better, don't we? Walk. Ashley moved toward the disposal area, her walk steady despite the slight unevenness. As she passed the coffee station, her hand automatically straightened a row of cups that were slightly out of line, a movement so swift most missed it entirely. But Chief Petty Officer Marcus King, watching from his corner table, caught it. His eyes tracked her movement with growing suspicion. 0400 hours tomorrow, Connor called after her. You're on early deck duty. The flight deck needs a proper cleaning before morning operation. Think you can handle that without destroying Navy property? Ashley paused at the disposal station, her back to him. Yes, sir. Her voice was quiet, neutral, neither submissive nor defiant. Just two words that somehow carried more weight than their simplicity suggested. Connor's eyes flashed with annoyance at her lack of reaction. Sir? I'm not sir to you, civilian. You don't have the right to military courtesy. She turned slightly, just enough for him to see her profile. Yes, Lieutenant Mitch. There was something in how she said his rank, perfectly correct, without emotion, that made several sailors exchange glances. It wasn't disrespect, couldn't be called that. but it was some commercial break type message removed as per instructions. The next morning arrived with brutal efficiency. At 03:45, Ashley stood on the hangar deck, bucket and brush in hand, 15 minutes before her assigned time. The pre-dawn darkness was broken only by harsh work lights that cast long shadows across the textured surface. She had already begun working when Connor arrived at 04. His disappointment was clear as he found her halfway through marking off her cleaning area with the kind of precise lines usually used for aircraft operations. "Trying to impress me, Walker?" He circled her like a hunter, looking for any mistake to use against her. "Don't bother. I've seen 100 contractors like you, all trying to prove something, all failing." Ashley continued scrubbing, her movements steady and measured. Each stroke covered exactly the same space, creating perfectly neat, clean sections that would pass any inspection. Her breathing remained controlled despite the physical effort, showing the kind of fitness that came from years of training. Blake Harrison emerged from the ship's control tower structure, yawning widely. "Mitchell, you really got up at 0:30, that's cold, even for you." "She needs to earn her pay," Connor replied, but his gaze remained fixed on Ashley. Something about her bothered him, the way she never complained, never showed weakness despite her obvious physical issue. Never gave him the satisfaction of a reaction. "You know what Blake moved closer to Ashley, invading her personal space. "I think she's hiding something. Nobody takes this kind of treatment without breaking, unless they've got secrets." Ashley's brush never paused, but her awareness of her surroundings shifted instantly, automatically tracking Blake's position relative to exits and possible weapons. It was the kind of quick tactical judgment that happened without conscious thought, built into muscle memory through years of practice. "Maybe she's a deserter," Connor suggested loudly enough for the growing crowd of early shift sailors to hear. "Maybe that's not a civilian contractor badge at all. Maybe someone's running from their service duty." Commander Ethan Cross, one of the F-35 Lightning II pilots, joined the group. His flight suit was spotless despite the early hour, every patch and pin perfectly placed. "Deserter? No. Look at her. She's never served a day in her life. Probably got that scar in a car accident. Made up some story about it being more dramatic." "Actually," Rachel Torres interrupted, having appeared with a coffee tray for the officers. She filled out all her employment paperwork correct, every form, every signature, every date. "I processed it myself. It was unusually perfect." Connor's head snapped toward her. "What do you mean unusually perfect?" Rachel shrugged, trying to seem casual. "Just that most civilian contractors make mistakes. Wrong date format, missing signatures, that kind of thing. Hers looked like." She paused, choosing her words carefully, like someone who's filled out a lot of government paperwork. "Probably welfare forms," Blake laughed crudely. "Right, Walker? Living off government assistance before you got this job." Ashley's hand tightened on the brush handle for a fraction of a second, not enough for most to notice, but Marcus King, who had arrived to oversee the morning shift, caught it. He also noticed how she had positioned herself with clear lines of sight to all entry points, how her cleaning pattern created natural defensive spots, and how she never let anyone fully behind her despite appearing focused on her task. The morning sun began painting the horizon in pale orange, and the flight deck started buzzing with preparations for the day's operations. Aircraft handlers began their checks, maintenance crews emerged with their tools, and the organized chaos of carrier operations began its daily rhythm. "Walker," Connor barked, "you missed a spot." Ashley looked at the section he pointed to, spotless, clearly clean by standard, but said nothing. She simply moved to clean it again, accepting the pointless order without complaint. "That's what I thought," Connor smirked. No pride, no backbone, just another contractor collecting a paycheck. Lieutenant Commander Grace Chen from Intelligence emerged onto the deck, tablet in hand, reviewing the day's operational briefings. She glanced at the scene, her analytical mind automatically noting the dynamics. The circle of officers around a single civilian, the power difference, the cruel amusement of it all. Her eyes lingered on Ashley for a moment longer than necessary. Something about the woman's posture sparked a memory she couldn't quite place. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Grace called out, her tone professionally neutral. "Captain Rhodes wants all department heads in the ready room in 15 minutes. Connor checked his watch with annoyance. "This isn't over, Walker. You'll finish this section plus the portside elevator platform," Think you can manage that with your limitations. Ashley straightened slowly, favoring her right leg just enough to be noticeable. I'll complete the assigned task. Her phrasing made Marcus King's eyes narrow further. Military personnel said, complete the assigned task. Civilians said, get it done or finish the job. It was a small detail, but small details added up. As the officers left, Rachel lingered, pretending to collect coffee cups. When the others were out of earshot, she moved closer to Ashley. You don't have to take this, she said quietly. There are ways, channels to report. Thank you. Ashley cut her off gently but firmly. But I'm exactly where I need to be. Rachel frowned at the odd phrasing, but before she could respond, Ashley had already moved away, continuing her methodical cleaning. As she worked, Ashley unconsciously checked her back. A quick glance over her shoulder that covered all possible approach paths in a single smooth motion. The movement was so practiced, so automatic that she didn't even realize she'd done it. But Grace Chen, watching from the bridge wing above, noticed. She pulled out her tablet and made a note, then accessed the ship's personnel database. Her search for Ashley Walker returned exactly what she expected. A perfect, completely unremarkable civilian contractor file. Too perfect, too unremarkable. In her experience, nobody was that boring, unless they were trying very hard to be. The day progressed with mechanical cruelty. Connor had apparently made it his personal mission to break Ashley, assigning her to the worst tasks at the worst times. Cleaning grease traps during meal service, inventory in the ammunition magazine during rough seas, maintenance in the jet blast deflectors immediately after flight operations, when the metal was still hot enough to burn through gloves. Through it all, Ashley maintained her silence, her steady pace, her mechanical compliance. But small signs leaked through, the way she automatically found a stable stance before the ship's rolls, how she could identify aircraft by sound alone, the unconscious way she gave proper honors when the national anthem was played. It was during the ammunition magazine inventory that things began to speed up. Blake Harrison had volunteered to supervise, which meant finding new ways to make the task harder. The magazine was deep in the ship's belly, cramped and sweltering, filled with racks of weapons that had to be checked and recorded. You know what this is? Blake held up a small part, testing her. Ashley glanced at it briefly. Fuse assembly. Lucky guess. How about this? He pulled out another piece. She hesitated, clearly recognizing it, but stopping herself before answering. I wouldn't know. But Blake had caught the hesitation. No, you knew. You definitely knew. What is it? I'm just here to count inventory, Lieutenant Harrison. That's not what I asked. Blake moved closer, using his height advantage to tower over her. What is it? Ashley remained silent, but her stance shifted subtly, weight balanced, hands free, ready for quick movement. It was so slight that Blake didn't notice, but Master-at-Arms Luke Anderson, who had been assigned to secure the magazine during inventory, recognized the defensive posture immediately. It's an intervalometer, Luke said, easing the tension. Used in the timing of cluster munitions, though we don't carry those anymore, so it's probably just old stock. Blake turned on him. I didn't ask you, Anderson. No, sir, but regulations require a security presence during civilian access to weapons area. I'm required to observe and intervene if necessary. Luke's tone was professionally neutral, but his positioning put him between Blake and Ashley. Not obviously protective, but certainly deliberate. Blake's face reddened. Are you suggesting something, Master-at-Arms? Not at all, simply following protocol. The moment stretched taut before Blake finally stepped back. Whatever. Walker, finish this inventory and do it right. I'll be checking every number. After Blake left, Luke remained, watching Ashley work. She moved through the weapon storage, with an ease that shouldn't exist in a civilian contractor. Her hands never fumbled with the complex names. She never had to double-check serial number locations, and she automatically kept her movements safe around the more sensitive weapon. You know, Luke said casually, I've seen a lot of contractors come through. Most of them need a week just to learn how to read our inventory systems. Ashley didn't respond, just continued her count. But you picked it up immediately. First day, no mistakes. That's unusual. She made a note on her tablet. I read the manual. Which manual? We have about 70 different ones for weapon handling alone. All of them. Luke raised an eyebrow. All of them. In what? 3 days since you were hired. I'm a quick reader. He watched her handle a particularly sensitive piece of equipment, with the kind of care that came from experience, not manuals. You know, Walker, if you ever want to talk about inventories complete, she handed him the tablet. Every number accounted for. Luke looked at the finished inventory. Perfect. Organized not just by rule, but with the kind of improvements that came from deep understanding of how logistics work. He'd seen similar work before in joint operations with special forces units who had to manage their own supply chains in enemy territory. This is excellent work, he said carefully. Just doing my job. Ashley moved toward the exit, that slight limp still present, but somehow not affecting her stability on the ladder leading up from the magazine. As she climbed, Luke noticed something else. Her hands gripped the ladder rungs in a specific pattern, 3 points of contact always maintained, weight distributed to lessen strain. It was textbook tactical movement, the kind drilled into special operations personnel until it became an unconscious habit. He pulled out his phone and sent a message to Marcus King. We need to talk about Walker. The mess hall at 18's Aram buzzed with the usual dinner crowd. Ashley had been assigned to serve, supposedly because they were short-staffed, but really because Connor enjoyed the power play of making her wait on him and his group. She moved between tables with her tray, distributing meals with the same mechanical precision she brought to everything. Most sailors thanked her quietly, uncomfortable with the situation, but unsure how to help. Some, following Connor's lead, made pointed comments about her scar, her limp, her status as an outsider. It was when she reached Connor's table that things got worse again. Well, Connor said loudly, ensuring maximum audience. Our servant has arrived. Tell me, Walker, did you ever think you'd be serving real warriors? Must be quite an honor for someone like you. Ashley set down his tray without comment. I asked you a question. Connor's voice carried that dangerous edge that came before punishment. It's a job, Ashley replied quietly. A job, Connor repeated mockingly. Is that what you tell yourself? That you're equal to us because you get a paycheck? He stood suddenly, forcing her to step back. You're nothing. You understand that? You're here because we allow it. Because we need someone to do the jobs beneath us. Blake laughed from across the table. Hey, Connor, maybe she thinks she's some kind of hero. Look at how she stands, trying to look military. It's pathetic. You know what I think? Connor continued, circling Ashley as the mess hall grew quieter. I think you're a fake. Everything about you screams wannabe. The way you fold things, the way you stand, even how you say, sir. It's all an act, isn't it? Trying to pretend you belong here. Ashley remained still, eyes forward, saying nothing. Answer me. Connor slammed his hand on the table, making several sailors jump. No act, Ashley said simply. No act? Connor mimicked her tone. Then what's your story, Walker? Where'd you get that scar? Car accident? Domestic dispute? Fall down some stairs drunk? The mess hall was deadly silent now. 200 pairs of eyes watching. IED, Ashley said quietly. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Connor's face went through several expressions: surprise, suspicion, then cruel amusement. IED, he repeated. You're claiming you got hit by an IED. Where in your fantasy? What were you, a tourist in the wrong place? Contractor convoy. Akmastan to a. Grace Chen, sitting 3 tables away, immediately pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen as she searched. There had been several contractor convoy incidents in Afghanistan in 20, but the details would be easy to verify. Contractor convoy. Blake stood up, moving closer. How convenient. A story just believable enough but hard to check. What company? Ashley hesitated. Not because she didn't know, but because answering would open doors she needed to keep closed. Kellogg Brown and Root. Doing what? Connor pressed. Support services. Support services. Connor's voice dripped with scorn. So you were washing dishes for real soldiers and somehow got yourself blown up through clumsiness. The convoy was ambushed. IED followed by small arms fire. 3 KIA, 7 WIA. Grace's search returned result. There had been such an incident in October 2010 matching Ashley's description, but the details were partially secret, and the casualty list was blacked out. Interesting. And you just happened to survive? Connor said skeptically. I was lucky. Lucky. Connor stepped closer, close enough that Ashley had to look up at him. Or lying. I think you're lying, Walker. I think you read about some attack online and decided to claim it as your own story. Stolen valor, that's what you are. The accusation rippled through the mess hall. Stolen valor was one of the most serious charges in military culture, and several sailors shifted uncomfortably. Lieutenant Mitchell, Captain Rojas's voice cut through the tension like a knife. He stood in the doorway having arrived unnoticed. A word. Connor straight. Sir, I was just... Now, Lieutenant. As Connor left, the mess hall slowly returned to normal conversation, though many eyes lingered on Ashley. She resumed her duties as if nothing had happened, but Rachel noticed her hands were perfectly steady. No trembling from fear, no nervous energy, just calm, controlled movement. Grace Chen watched Ashley for another moment, then returned to her search. The KBR convoy incident was real, but something was off. The tactical response described in the after-action report suggested military personnel were present, not just contractors. And one detail stood out. The convoy's survival had been credited to someone identified only as security contractor, who had coordinated the defense until help arrived. E.W. Ashley Walker. But when Grace tried to dig deeper, she hit classification walls that shouldn't exist for a simple contractor incident. Her intelligence background told her what that meant. Someone had buried the real story. The question was why. Meanwhile, in the captain's quarters, Rojas faced Connor with barely contained anger. Lieutenant, explain to me why you're harassing a civilian contractor. Sir, I have concerns about her background. She's claiming military experience that seems made up. Based on what evidence? Her story doesn't add up, sir. The way she acts, it's all wrong. She's trying too hard to seem military. Rojas studied Connor for a long moment. Lieutenant, are you familiar with Operation Neptune's Hammer? Connor frowned at the seemingly random question. No. Classified operation. 29. 47 hostages rescued from Somalia. The operator who led that mission took 17 pieces of shrapnel and still completed the objective. Lost 3 pints of blood but refused evacuation until every hostage was secure. Sir, I don't see what. That operator retired from active duty last year. Officially. Rojas's eyes were steady, unblinking. Sometimes, Lieutenant, people end up where they need to be for reasons you're not cleared to know. Connor's face paled slightly. Sir, are you saying? I'm saying focus on your own duties. Leave Walker alone. But sir, if she's really dismissed, Lieutenant. Connor left, but Rojas could see the wheels turning in his head. The suspicion would spread now, but controlled, direct. Rojas picked up his secure phone and dialed a number from memory. It's Mason. She's in position. No, the cover's holding, but barely. Mitchell's becoming a problem. Copy that. Maintaining observation. Back in the mess hall, Ashley finished her shift without further incident. But as she cleaned the last table, she found a napkin left behind with writing on it. Coordinates and a time. She recognized Marcus King's handwriting immediately. The coordinates led to a maintenance space near the bow, rarely visited during night shift. When she arrived at the specified time, 0200, Marcus, Luke Anderson, and surprisingly, Grace Chen were waiting. We know you're not who you say you are, Marcus said without preamble. Ashley's posture shifted subtly, ready for fight or flight. I'm exactly who my paperwork said. Your paperwork is too perfect, Grace countered. I've seen plenty of legends in my time. False identities created for operators. Yours is good. Very good. But it's still a legend. You're mistaken. Am I? Grace pulled up something on her tablet. Security contractor AW, KBR convoy. October 12. Coordinated defense against a complex ambush. Saved 11 lives. The report reads like a special operations after action, not a contractor incident. Ashley said nothing. Then there's your movement patterns. Marcus added. You slice the pie when entering rooms. You maintain 3-point contact on ladders even when not required. You automatically position yourself with optimal sightlines and escape routes. These aren't things civilians do. Maybe I'm just careful. Luke stepped forward. Walker, we're not trying to get you in trouble. But Connor's getting suspicious, and he's not going to let this go. If you're here for a reason, if this is something official, we need to know. We can help, or at least stay out of your way. Ashley studied each of them, calculations running behind her eyes. After a long moment, she spoke. Hypothetically, If someone was investigating stolen goods and illegal weapon sales using Navy supply chains, what would you do? The three exchanged glances. Hypothetically, Marcus said slowly, we'd want to help catch the bastards selling out their shipmates. And if such an investigation required maintaining cover despite personal cost, then we'd do everything possible to protect that cover, Grace said firmly. Ashley nodded slowly. Then hypothetically, you should know that Lieutenant Mitchell has been redirecting shipments. Check the maintenance logs for the portside weapons elevator, specifically nights when it's listed as down for maintenance, but no work orders were generated. Luke's eyes widened. Those nights correspond with supply deliveries that show full receipt, but inventory discrepancies later. Ashley finished. Someone's taking weapons and equipment off the books. Holy cow, Marcus breathed. How long have you been tracking this? Ashley Walker has been on this ship for a week, Ashley said carefully, but the investigation started 3 months ago. The implications hit them simultaneously. 3 months ago, there had been a series of high-level inspections throughout the Pacific Fleet. Admirals and intelligence officers appearing unannounced, reviewing everything from personnel files to maintenance logs. You were here before, Grace said during the inspections. You were one of the... She stopped herself, remembering they were speaking in hypothetical. If such an investigation existed, Ashley said, it would need to trace the entire network, not just the thieves, but the buyers, the facilitators, the ones providing cover. That would take time, patience, and sometimes playing a role that invites underestimation. The limp, Luke said suddenly. It's not consistent. Sometimes you favor your right leg, sometimes you adjust perfectly. It's an act. Ashley shifted her weight and suddenly the limp was gone, her stance perfectly balanced. Injuries can be useful camouflage. People see weakness and stop looking for strength, but the scar is real. Ashley touched her collar unconsciously. Different operation, different time, but it sells the image of someone broken, someone non-threatening. So Connor and his crew, they're the targets? Marcus asked. Connor Mitchell, Blake Harrison, Oliver Nash, from Communications, Henry Park from Supply and at least 8 others. They're moving weapons to buyers in Southeast Asia, small arms mostly, but last month they managed to redirect 2 Phalanx CIWS maintenance kits. Those are worth millions on the black market. That's treason, Luke said flatly. Yes, it is. What do you need from us? Grace asked. Nothing. Stay clear. Let this play out. Connor's getting desperate. He knows something's wrong, but can't figure out what. Desperate people make mistakes. He's also getting violent, Marcus pointed out. Today was worse than yesterday. I can handle Connor Mitchell. Can you? Luke challenged. Because from where I'm standing, you're taking a beating to maintain cover. How far does this go? Ashley's eyes went cold, and for a moment, they saw something else beneath the contractor facade. Something dangerous, trained, deadly. As far as necessary, and if he crosses a line, if he actually tries to hurt you, then my cover won't matter anymore, and Connor Mitchell will learn exactly who he's been pushing around. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, but we're not there yet. The network is still intact. I need them comfortable, confident. They're planning something big. I can feel it. When they move, we'll have them all. Grace studied her with professional interest. You're not just military, you're special operations. SEAL, Ashley neither confirmed nor denied, but her silence spoke volumes. High ranking, Marcus pressed. High enough that when this ends, Connor Mitchell will wish he'd chosen a different career path. They absorbed that, understanding the implication. Someone very senior was running this operation, someone with enough authority to embed themselves this deep without local command knowledge. The captain knows, Luke said. It wasn't a question. Captain Rods is a good officer. He follows orders and doesn't ask questions he doesn't need. Answered. And us? Now that we know, Ashley studied them again. You know nothing. You've noticed some irregularities in Mitchell's behavior, and you're documenting them, through proper channels. If asked, you have concerns about potential harassment of civilian personnel. That's all. They nodded, understanding. One more thing, Ashley added. In about a week, maybe less, things are going to happen very quickly. When they do, stay out of the way. No matter what you see, no matter what happens, do not interfere. Can you do that? They agreed. though Luke looked troubled. Walker, whoever you really are, be careful. Connor's unstable and getting worse. And Blake Harrison, there are rumors about him. Things that happened at his last command. I know all about Blake Harrison, Ashley said quietly. Assault charges that disappeared. A female ensign who requested emergency transfer. Payments to make problems go away. He's on my list for more than just weapons theft. The meeting dispersed as quietly as it had formed, each returning to their quarters by different routes. Ashley waited an extra 10 minutes, using the time to review the intelligence she'd gathered. The pieces were falling into place. Connor's network was larger than initially suspected, reaching into multiple ships across the fleet. Tomorrow she'd need to access the classified communications terminal, which meant escalating the situation. As she made her way back to her assigned quarters, a cramped civilian sleeping area near the engineering spaces, she noticed movement in the shadows. Someone was following her. She maintained her pace, limping slightly, playing the victim while her mind calculated angles and distance. The follower revealed himself as they reached an isolated passage. Henry Park, the supply officer involved in the theft ring. Young, nervous, clearly out of his depth, but trying to prove himself to Connor's crew. Walker, he called out. She turned slowly, maintaining the civilian contractor persona. Yes? Lieutenant Mitchell wants to see you now. It was 0300, an unusual time for any legitimate meeting. Ashley calculated quickly. This was either an escalation in harassment, or something more sinister. Either way, it might provide the evidence she needed. Lead the way, she said. Park looked surprised at her easy compliance, but gestured for her to follow. They descended deeper into the ship, away from populated areas, toward the auxiliary machinery rooms, where noise would cover almost any sound. Connor was waiting with Blake and Oliver Nash. The space was cramped, hot, and loud. Pumps and generators created a constant din, perfect for a confrontation that wasn't meant to be witnessed. Walker, Connor had to raise his voice over the machinery. We need to have a conversation about your lie. Ashley stood passive, shoulders slightly hunched, playing the intimidated civilian perfectly. I haven't lied about anything. See, that's the problem. Blake moved to block the exit behind her. We think you have. Nobody's that perfect, Walker. Nobody takes what we've been dishing out without breaking, unless they're trained for it. I just need this job, Ashley said, letting a tremor enter her voice. Please, I'll do whatever you want. I won't cause trouble. Connor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Whatever we want. That's interesting. Oliver here thinks you're a federal agent. Maybe NCIS. Maybe something else. Sent to spy on us. That's crazy, Ashley protested, adding just enough fear to sell it. I'm nobody. Check my records. We did, Oliver interrupted. They're too clean, like someone made them up. So, here's what's going to happen, Connor continued. You're going to tell us exactly who you are and why you're here, or things are going to get very unpleasant. Blake produced a knife, not military issue, something personal and illegal aboard ship. Accidents happen in machinery room. People slip, fall, get caught in equipment. Tragic, really, but civilians don't know proper safety protocols. Ashley's mind processed the situation in milliseconds. 3 attackers, 1 armed, confined space with limited movement, noise cover that would mask a fight, but also mask calls for help. Her cover was blown regardless. They'd never believe any explanation she gave now, but she needed them to reveal more, needed evidence of their plot. You're threatening to kill me because you think I'm a federal agent. She put disbelief in her voice. Do you hear yourself? You'd murder someone on suspicion. Not murder, Connor corrected. An accident. But you can avoid that by telling us the truth. The truth, Ashley repeated, buying time while she positioned herself better, subtly shifting toward a pipe that could serve as a weapon if needed. You want the truth? That's all we've ever wanted, Blake said, moving closer with the knife. Ashley let out a shaky breath as if preparing to confess. The truth is, an alarm horn suddenly blared through the ship. General quarters, all hands to battle station. The light switched to red and the ship's intercom crackled to life. General quarters, all hands man your battle stations. This is not a drill. The 4 plotters froze, torn between their interrogation and their military duty.
In that moment of confusion,
Ashley moved. She swept Blake's knife hand aside with her left forearm while driving her right palm into his stomach. He doubled over, gasping, the knife clattering away into the machinery. Oliver rushed her, but she sidestepped, using his momentum to drive him face first into a pipe. He went down hard, blood streaming from his nose. Connor and Park stood frozen, shocked by the sudden reversal. Ashley stood between them and the exit, no longer limping, no longer hunched. Her stance was perfectly balanced, professional, dangerous. "You have two choices," she said, her voice carrying despite the alarms. "Report to your battle stations and pretend this never happened, or explain to security why you're in a restricted machinery room during general quarters instead of at your posts." "You," Connor started. "Battle stations, Lieutenant Mitchell. Now." The command voice that emerged from Ashley was unmistakable. Someone used to being obeyed. Someone with significantly more authority than her civilian cover suggested. Connor actually took a step back before catching himself. "This isn't over," he snarled. "No, Ashley Etchie, it's not." They fled, leaving Blake groaning on the deck, and Oliver trying to stem his nosebleed. Ashley helped them to their feet with clinical efficiency. "You broke my nose," Oliver complained nasally. "You threatened me with a knife." Ashley replied calmly. "Report to medical after you reach your station. Tell them you fell during the GQ alarm, unless you'd prefer to explain what really happened." They stumbled away and Ashley took a moment to clean the scene, pocketing Blake's illegal knife as evidence. Then she made her way to her assigned GQ station, the mess decks, where civilians were supposed to shelter during emergencies. The general quarters turned out to be a drill, a readiness test that lasted 2 hours. When it ended, Ashley noticed the plotters watching her with a mixture of fear and rage. The dynamic had shifted. They knew she was dangerous now, but not how dangerous or who she really worked for. Grace Chen found her later, pulling her aside near the laundry. "Interesting drill timing," Grace said quietly. "Very," Ashley agreed. "Almost like someone knew you needed an interruption." Ashley said nothing, but her slight smile was confirmation enough. Captain Rhodes had been monitoring the situation more closely than anyone realized. "They're spooked now," Grace observed. "They'll either back off or escalate hard." "They'll escalate," Ashley said with certainty. "Connor can't back down. His personality won't allow it. And now they're scared, which makes them desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. You're using yourself as bait. It's the fastest way to expose the whole network." Grace shook her head. "That's a dangerous game. What if they don't just threaten next time? Then I'll defend myself appropriately." Ashley touched her collar, adjusting it to hide more of her scar. "But we're close. Another day or two and they'll make their move. When they do, we'll have everything we need." Over the next 24 hours, the ship's atmosphere grew thick with tension. Connor's group huddled in corners, whispering urgently. Other sailors noticed the change, the way the plotters watched Ashley with barely contained hostility. Rachel Torres approached Ashley during a quiet moment in the mess decks. "Something's happening," Rachel said quietly. "Connor and his group, they're planning something. I overheard Blake saying something about handling the problem permanently." Ashley continued wiping down tables, seemingly unconcerned. "Thank you for the warning. You're not scared. Fear is a choice, Ensign Torres." Rachel studied her. "Who are you really?" "I'm whoever I need to be." "That's not an answer." Ashley paused, looking at the young officer with something like approval. "No, it's not, but it's all you're going to get. Stay clear of Connor's group for the next 48 hours. Whatever happens, don't get involved." "But that's an order, Ensign." Rachel's eyes widened. Civilians didn't give orders. The implications of that slip made her step back. "I understand," Rachel said slowly. That evening, Ashley received a message through channels. Her cover identity had been thoroughly burned. Connor's group had reached out to contacts trying to verify her background, and those inquiries had triggered alerts in intelligence circles. The operation needed to conclude soon before the plotters scattered. She made her way to the communication center, ostensibly to send a personal email, but actually to plant monitoring software on the classified systems. Oliver Nash was on duty, and his face paled when she entered. "Civilian contractors aren't allowed in here," he said immediately. "I have authorization from Lieutenant Morrison and admin." Ashley lied smoothly, producing a forged form she'd prepared days ago. Oliver examined it, clearly wanting to refuse, but unable to find a legitimate reason. 5 minutes, that's all. Ashley sat at the designated terminal and appeared to compose a bland email home, while her hands flew across the keyboard, hidden commands executing beneath the surface interface. Within 3 minutes, she had access to the ship's entire classified message traffic. The conspiracy was bigger than anyone suspected. Weapons shipments. Yes, but also classified technical manuals, communication codes, even personnel files on special operations units. Connor's network was selling everything they could access to buyers in China, Russia, and Iran. She downloaded the evidence to an encrypted drive, hidden in what appeared to be a typical USB phone charger. As she worked, she became aware of Oliver moving closer, trying to see her screen. "Almost done," she said pleasantly. "What's taking so long?" "Slow connection. The ship's internet has always been." The lights suddenly went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. Oliver reacted instantly, grabbing for his sidearm. "Don't move." Ashley remained seated, hands visible. "Power outage happens all the time on ship." "This isn't a power outage." Oliver's voice was tight with panic. "You did something. You're—" The lights came back on, and Marcus King stood in the doorway with 2 master-at-arms. "Petty Officer Nash, we've received a report of unauthorized access to classified systems." Oliver's weapon swung between Ashley and Marcus. "She's a spy. Arrest her." "Lower your weapon, Petty Officer," Marcus commanded. "She's accessing classified data." I saw you threaten a civilian with a weapon," Marcus countered. "Lower it now or we'll lower it for you." Oliver's hand shook, but he obeyed. One of the master-at-arms quickly secured the weapon while the other checked the terminal. Ashley had been using just a personal email, Chief, the MA reported, seeing only the surface interface Ashley had left displayed. "See," Ashley stood slowly. "Misunderstanding. Petty Officer Nash seems very stressed." Marcus studied both of them, clearly aware of the undercurrents. "Petty Officer Nash, you'll need to come with us. Pulling a weapon on a civilian is a serious matter." As they escorted Oliver away, he shouted over his shoulder, "Check the systems, check what she really did." But by then Ashley had already palmed the encrypted drive and deleted all traces of her intrusion. She left the communications center quietly, knowing that Oliver's arrest would panic the rest of the conspiracy. They'd have to move now, tonight, before the investigation expanded. She was right. At 200 hours, Ashley received the message she'd been expecting. A note slipped under her door, ordering her to report to the hangar bay for cleaning duties. It was obviously a trap, but it was also the opportunity she'd been waiting for. She prepared carefully. The knife she'd taken from Blake went into her boot. Her phone, modified with recording equipment, went into her pocket. Most importantly, she activated the emergency beacon that would signal Captain Rhodes and the intervention team standing by. The hangar bay at night was a cavern of shadows and sleeping aircraft. Ashley entered through the main deck access, immediately noting the positions of Connor, Blake, and 3 others spread around the space. They had chosen their ground well, multiple exits, plenty of cover, and the noise of ventilation systems to mask sound. "Walker," Connor called out, stepping into a pool of light. "Or whatever your real name is." Ashley moved forward, maintaining her contractor persona for any potential witnesses or recordings. "Lieutenant Mitchell, rather late for cleaning duties." "Cut the act." Blake emerged from behind and, "We know you're investigating us." Oliver cracked. "Told us everything before they hauled him away." That was a lie. Oliver had been in isolation since his arrest, but Ashley played along. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're either NCIS or FBI." Connor continued, moving close. "Doesn't matter which. What matters is that you're about to have an accident. Tragic, really. Civilian unfamiliar with carrier operations, wandering where she shouldn't. falling from the elevator platform. 30-foot drop onto steel. Nobody survives. You're talking about murdering a federal agent. Ashley kept her voice steady. You know they'll investigate. They'll find out. No body, no crime, Blake said. You fall, you hit the nets on the side of the ship, you go into the ocean. By the time anyone notices you're missing, you'll be shark food 50 miles behind us. They'd thought it through, Ashley noted with professional interest. It might even have worked on an actual civilian contractor or basic federal agent. But they'd fundamentally miscalculated who they were dealing with. There's another option, Connor offered. You tell us exactly what you know, who you've reported to, what evidence you have. We might be willing to make a deal. A deal, Ashley repeated. You mean you won't kill me if I help you escape justice? Something like that. Ashley appeared to consider this, shoulders slumping in defeat. I need guarantees. Protection. Connor smiled, sensing victory. Of course we're reasonable people. Just tell us what. The hangar bay lights suddenly blazed to full intensity. A voice boomed over the IMC. Security alert. Hangar Bay 3. All security personnel respond immediately. Connor's head whipped around in panic. You signaled them. No, Ashley said, dropping her civilian mask entirely. Her posture straightened, authority radiating from every line. I signaled them 10 minutes ago. They've been recording everything. Security forces poured in from every entrance, weapons. But Connor, desperate and cornered, pulled his own sidearm. I'll kill you before they. Ashley moved faster than thought. She swept his gun hand up and away while driving her knee into his stomach. The weapon discharged harmlessly into the overhead as Connor doubled over. Blake rushed her, but she pivoted, using his momentum to send him crashing into a tool cart. The other plotters tried to run, but found exits blocked by security teams. Within seconds the entire group was on the deck, restrained and under arrest. Captain Routz entered, flanked by senior officers. His eyes found Ashley, who stood calmly amidst the chaos, not even breathing hard despite the brief violence. Ma'am, Routz said formally, I believe this concludes your investigation. Ashley nodded. The evidence has been secured and transmitted, Cap. Your ship has been compromised by a network of 12 individuals involved in theft of military resources and espionage. Petty Officer Nash has already been detained. These 5 were the primaries. Understood. Routz turned to his security chief. Process them. Full isolation. No communication. As Connor was hauled to his feet, his eyes blazed with hatred. Who are you? Ashley stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear. Someone you should never have crossed, Lieutenant. Your name? I deserve to know your name. Ashley considered, then pulled something from her pocket. Her real identification, kept hidden until now. She held it up just long enough for Connor to read. Vice Admiral Ashley Walker, Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command, Task Force Neptune. Connor's face went white. He'd been harassing, threatening, and attempting to murder one of the highest-ranking special operations officers in the entire United States Navy. A SEAL admiral, who'd spent 3 months playing a broken civilian just to catch him. No, he whispered. That's not. You can't. Ashley had already pocketed the ID, but the damage was done. Connor's legs gave out, and the security team had to literally carry him away. The other plotters, having overheard enough to understand, looked equally devastated. Marcus King approached as the hangar bay cleared. Admiral, Ashley smiled slightly. Not here, Chief. The investigation needs to remain classified until the full network is rounded up. As far as anyone knows, I'm still Ashley Walker, civilian contractor. But Connor knows. Connor's heading for a federal supermax facility. His opinion won't matter much there. What about us? Those of us who figured it out. Ashley studied him. You did your duty, Chief. You saw irregularities and reported them. That's all anyone needs to know. Grace Chen joined them, tablet in hand. The download from the communication center. We've identified 17 more plotters across 3 ships. This is huge. It's treasonous. Ashley corrected. And it stops now. Captain Routz returned after ensuring the plotters were secured. Admiral, with respect this deception, 3 months of taking abuse, letting them treat you like nothing. Ashley finished. It was necessary, Captain. They had to believe I was helpless, harmless. Otherwise they never would have revealed themselves. But the cost was minimal compared to the damage they could have done. The technical manuals they sold contained classified submarine signatures. The personnel files identified our operators in deep cover. People would have died if this continued. Routes nodded slowly. What now? Now I disappear. Ashley Walker resigns due to harassment. Finds work elsewhere. The investigation continues, but through official channels. In a few days, federal agents will arrive to conduct interviews. Cooperate fully. And you? Ashley touched her scar absently. There's always another mission, Cap. Over the next several hours, Ashley methodically closed out her cover identity. She filed a resignation citing workplace harassment. True enough to be believed. She packed the few belongings that Ashley Walker would have owned. She said goodbye to the few sailors who'd shown her kindness, maintaining the fiction to the end. Rachel Torres found her as she prepared to leave. So you're really going? It's for the best, Ashley replied, staying in character. I'm sorry, Rachel said, for everything you went through. You didn't deserve any of it. Ashley studied the young ensign. Can I give you some advice? Of course. Never judge people by appearances. Never assume weakness is real, or that strength is obvious. The most dangerous people in the world are the ones you never see coming. Rachel absorbed that. You're not really a contractor, are you? Ashley smiled. I'm exactly what I needed to be. As the COD aircraft prepared to take Ashley off the carrier, Master Chief Williams, the SEAL veteran who had recognized her during the reveal, approached privately. Admiral Walker. She turned, not surprised he knew. Master Chief, I was at Neptune's hammer, Overwatch position. I saw what you did that day. Ancient history. Not to the 47 people you saved. Not to their families. He straightened to attention and rendered a perfect salute. It's been an honor serving on the same ship, ma'am. Ashley returned the salute, then shook his hand. Keep an eye on things here, Master Chief. Good sailors need good leaders. Roger that, ma'am. As the aircraft lifted off, Ashley looked back at the USS Gerald R. one last time. Below, she knew Connor and his plotters were in the brig, their network unraveling, their crimes exposed. Justice had been served, but more importantly, future attacks had been prevented. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message. New mission available, Southeast Asia. Infiltration required. Ashley smiled grimly. There was always another mission. Another network to break, another threat to neutralize. But first, she'd enjoy a few hours of being herself again. Not the broken contract, not the helpless victim, but Vice Admiral Ashley Walker, the ghost who moved through shadows to protect those who would never know she existed. The aircraft banked toward Japan, and Ashley closed her eyes, already planning her next identity. The work never ended, but neither did her resolve. Somewhere out there, enemies of the United States were planning operations, stealing secrets, threatening lives, and Ashley Walker would be waiting for them, hidden in plain sight, ready to strike when they least expected it. They always underestimated the quiet ones. That was their first mistake. It was usually their last. The Sea of Japan stretched endlessly beyond the helicopter's windows, as Ashley Walker's extraction continued toward Yokosuka Naval Base. But even as the USS Gerald R. disappeared into the morning haze, encrypted communications were already flooding secure channel. The network Connor Mitchell had exposed was just one tentacle of something much larger, something that reached into the highest levels of Pacific Fleet operations. 3 days later, Ashley stood in a nondescript office building in Tokyo, her appearance already altered. The blonde hair was now dark brown, the tactical clothing replaced with a business suit that screamed middle management. But the scar remained too distinctive to hide completely, though makeup artists had done their best to minimize it. The investigation triggered alerts in Beijing and Moscow. Director Catherine Hayes of Naval Intelligence said, sliding a tablet across the conference table. Your extraction was noted. They know we found something. Ashley reviewed the intelligence updates. 17 arrests across 3 carriers, 2 submarine tenders and a destroyer squadron. But the communications they'd intercepted suggested something bigger was coming. A coordinated operation targeting the entire 7th Fleet's operational security. We need you to go back in, Hayes said bluntly. The Ford?
No, the Reagan. She's docking in Yokosuka in 48 hours. We have intelligence suggesting a massive data theft is planned during her maintenance period. Someone high up, higher than Lieutenant Mitchell, is coordinating it. Ashley studied the personnel files. My cover's blown. Connor's people will have communicated, which is why you're not going in as a contractor. Hayes produced another folder. Meet Lieutenant Commander Sarah Coleman, Navy Reserve, recalled to active duty for fleet inspection duty. Your scarring is explained by the same IED incident, but now you're a decorated officer rather than a civilian survivor. It was bold, risky, but Ashley could see the logic. The plotters would be looking for another helpless civilian, not a uniformed officer, walking among them with apparent authority. Timeline: 6 days. The Reagan's in port for a week. Whatever they're planning happens then. Ashley memorized the new identity, the background, the mission parameter. Sarah Coleman had a distinguished but unremarkable career. Surface warfare officer, 2 deployments, injured in a convoy attack, medically retired but recalled for administrative duties, boring enough to be ignored, senior enough to access restricted areas. There's one more thing, Hayes added. We've identified unusual communications between the Reagan and the Ford over the last month. Whoever's running this has people on both ships. Connor Mitchell might have been middle management, but someone on the Ford is still active. Ashley's mind immediately went to the faces she'd memorized during her 3 months undercover. Who had she missed? Who had played their role so well that even she hadn't suspected them? I'll need backup this time, Ashley said. Already arranged. Lieutenant Commander Marcus King is being transferred to the Reagan as part of a normal rotation. He'll be your contact. Ashley smiled slightly. King had proven himself trustworthy, and his security background would provide natural cover for coordination. 48 hours later, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Coleman reported aboard the USS Ronald Reagan as she entered Yokosuka Harbor. Ashley had transformed completely. Her posture was military rigid, but with the slight medical stiffness of someone managing old injury. The uniform was immaculate, but worn with the casual comfort of someone who'd been wearing them for years rather than days. The officer of the deck, a young lieutenant junior grade, examined her orders carefully. Welcome aboard, Commander Coleman. You're assigned to the inspection team. Fleet Assessment Division. Ashley replied with the tired tone of someone who had said it too many times. Routine evaluation of maintenance procedures during port periods. Ma'am, you'll need to check in with Commander Rodriguez in operations. He's coordinating all inspection personnel. Ashley made her way through this carrier maze of passages, noting security positions, camera placements, and the general rhythm of the crew. The Reagan felt different from the Ford. Older, more worn, but with the confidence of a crew that had seen actual combat deployment. Commander Miguel Rodriguez was a compact man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He examined her orders with the same careful attention the OD had shown. But there was something more, a subtle suspicion that suggested he had been warned about potential infiltrator. Coleman, he said slowly, says here you were medically retired in 2012, but recalled last month. Yes, sir. The fleet's short on qualified inspection personnel, and my injuries don't prevent administrative duties. That scar looks more recent than... Ashley touched her collar self-consciously, a practiced gesture she'd perfected. Secondary surgery, 2018. Nerve damage acted up. The VA finally approved the procedure. It was a believable lie, backed up by carefully inserted medical record. Rodriguez seemed to accept it, but Ashley could tell he'd be watching her. She was assigned quarters in officer country, a small stateroom shared with another recalled reservist, who was thankfully absent. Ashley immediately began her real work, installing micro-surveillance devices that would capture any unusual activity while maintaining her cover by conducting actual inspection.
The first 2 days passed without incident. Ashley performed her assigned duties meticulously, reviewing maintenance logs, observing repair procedures, and filing reports that were thoroughly boring and completely legitimate. But beneath the surface, she was mapping the ship's weaknesses, identifying potential plotters, and waiting for the network to reveal itself. It was on the 3rd day that things accelerated. Ashley was inspecting the forward weapons magazine when she noticed an irregularity, serial numbers that didn't match the logged inventory. It was subtle, the kind of discrepancy that would be lost in the thousands of line items unless you were specifically looking for it. "Find something interesting, Commander." The voice made her turn. A senior chief petty officer stood in the hatchway. Vincent Torres, according to his name tape, but Ashley recognized him from intelligence photos. He had been stationed on the Ford 6 months ago, transferred just before her investigation began. "Paperwork error," Ashley said casually. "Happens all the time." "Does it?" Torres moved closer and Ashley noticed he'd positioned himself between her and the exit. "You know, we had someone on the Ford recently. Civilian contractor asking lots of questions, finding lots of paperwork errors." "Is that so?" "Yeah, turned out she was a Fed. Caused all sorts of problems for good sailors just trying to do their jobs." Ashley maintained her expression of mild interest. "I heard about that. Several arrests, wasn't it? Espionage charges." "Trumped-up nonsense," Torres said, his voice hardening. "Good people railroaded by someone who didn't understand how things really work in the fleet." "How do things really work?" Senior Chief Torres studied her for a long moment. "We look out for each other, help each other. Sometimes that means bending rules that shouldn't exist anyway." "That sounds like a reason for criminal activity." His eyes flashed. "Or survival in a system that doesn't give a damn about enlisted personnel." "You wouldn't understand, Commander. Officers always get taken care of." Ashley recognized the recruitment pitch: identify discontent, confirm grievances, test flexibility on rules. Torres was feeling her out, trying to determine if she could be turned or if she was a threat. "You're right," Ashley said, surprising him. "The system is broken. I've seen it firsthand." She touched her scar. "Medical retirement at 12 years. Lost my pension. Fought for 3 years just to get surgery approved. They use us up and throw us away." Torres's posture relaxed slightly. "Exactly. So when opportunities come along to balance the scales, we'd be foolish not to consider them. Now you're getting it." He pulled out a phone, typed something quickly. "There's a meeting tonight. Unofficial. Some like-minded individuals discussing opportunities. Interested?" Ashley pretended to hesitate. "I'm here on official duties. If someone saw me, 2300. Maintenance bay. Come alone in civilian clothes. If anyone asks, you couldn't sleep and went for a walk." After he left, Ashley immediately encoded a message to Marcus King, who had arrived aboard that morning. The network was moving faster than expected, probably spooked by the arrests on the Ford. Tonight's meeting could expose the entire Reagan cell. At 22:45, Ashley made her way to Maintenance Bay 7, dressed in jeans and a navy sweatshirt that concealed both recording equipment and a ceramic knife that wouldn't trigger metal detectors. The bay was dimly lit, officially closed for repair work, but she could see figures moving in the shadows. Torres was waiting along with 5 others. Ashley recognized 2 from personnel files. Petty Officer First Class Janet Morrison, an intelligence specialist with gambling debts, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Robert Park, Connor Mitchell's cousin, who had requested transfer to the Reagan just weeks before Connor's arrest. "Commander Coleman," Torres said formally, "welcome to the real Navy, meaning the one where we recognize that loyalty goes both ways. The system screws us. We find ways to even the score." Morrison stepped forward. "We provide information to interested parties. Nothing that endangers lives, just technical data that's overclassified anyway." "Information," Ashley repeated. "You mean classified intelligence?" "I mean maintenance schedules that any civilian with binoculars could figure out." Morrison countered. "Deployment patterns that CNN reports anyway. Technical specifications for equipment our enemies have already reverse-engineered." It was the same justification Connor had used. Minimizing the treason by pretending the information was harmless. Ashley knew better. The maintenance schedules revealed vulnerability window. The deployment patterns exposed operational security. The technical specifications included classified defensive capabilities. "What's in it for me?" Ashley asked, playing the role. Park spoke up. 50,000 for basic access. More if you can provide inspection reports before they're filed. Our buyers are very interested in what weaknesses the Navy self-identifies. Buyers plural, we're not exclusive, Torres said with a mercenary smile. Information wants to be free, and we help it along to whoever pays. Ashley pretended to consider this while mentally cataloging faces, voices, and admissions. But something felt wrong. This was too easy, too open. Either they were remarkably stupid, or the lights suddenly blazed. Armed security personnel poured in from concealed positions, weapons drawn. But instead of moving to arrest the plotters, they formed a circle around everyone, including Ashley. Nobody move. Master-at-Arms First Class Diana Chen commanded. Ashley's mind raced. This wasn't her backup. The timing was wrong, and Marcus would have warned her. This was something else entirely. A figure emerged from behind the security team. Commander Rodriguez, but his entire demeanor had changed. Gone was the suspicious operations officer. In his place stood someone radiating quiet authority. Well, Rodriguez said calmly, this is interesting. We have the Reagan network. He gestured to Torres's group. And we have Lieutenant Commander Coleman, who isn't on any inspection team I can verify. Ashley maintained her cover. I don't know what you're talking about. My orders are forged, Rodriguez interrupted. Very well forged, but forged nonetheless. You see, I'm the actual fleet inspection coordinator. Have been for 2 years, and you, Commander Coleman, don't exist. Torres and his plotters looked between Ashley and Rodriguez in growing panic. She's a Fed. Morrison shouted. She's another plant like the one on the Ford. Possibly, Rodriguez agreed. Or possibly she's something else. You see, we've been aware of your little network for months, Senior Chief. We've been feeding you false information, tracking your contacts, mapping your entire operation. Torres's face went white. Your Naval Criminal Investigative Service, Special Agent Commander Miguel Rodriguez. He produced his actual credential, and you're all under arrest for espionage, conspiracy, and treason. As security moved to restrain the plotters, Rodriguez approached Ashley. Now you're the interesting one. Your cover is exceptional. It took me 3 days to verify you weren't who you claimed to be. That suggests significant resources. So who are you really? FBI, CIA? Or his eyes narrowed, something more specialized? Ashley calculated rapidly. Her primary mission was blown, but there might be opportunity in this chaos. Rodriguez was NCIS, which meant he wasn't read into the Neptune Task Force operations. She could maintain a different cover, but that would limit her ability to investigate further. Before she could decide, her secure phone buzzed with an emergency code she'd never seen activated. Valkyrie Protocol. Immediate extraction required. All covers blown. Extreme prejudice authorized. Something had gone catastrophically wrong. I need to make a call, Ashley said calmly. Rodriguez laughed. You're under detention pending identification. You don't get to. Ashley moved. She disarmed the nearest security officer in 2 moves, rolled behind a tool cart, and came up with a weapon trained on Rodriguez. The entire security team froze. Weapons raised but uncertain. I'm going to reach into my pocket, Ashley said steadily. I'm going to pull out identification. Nobody moves. Nobody gets hurt. You just assaulted a federal agent, Rodriguez said, though he looked more intrigued than angry. No, I just prevented a massive intelligence failure. Ashley slowly retrieved her real identification. Not the admiral rank she'd shown Connor, but something even more significant. Presidential Special Operations Directive. Executive authority. All military and federal personnel required to comply. Rodriguez's eyes widened as he read it. Holy, your task force Neptune. Admiral Ashley Walker. And we have a bigger problem than your espionage ring. That emergency code means something catastrophic is about to happen, and I need to get to a secure communications center immediately. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. Everyone stand down. Ma'am, this way. They ran through the carrier's passages, Rodriguez clearing the path with sharp commands. The secure communications center was 3 decks up, and every second felt like an eternity.
Ashley's mind raced through possibilities. What could trigger Valkyrie protocol? The answer came the moment she established a secure connection with Hayes. Admiral, thank God. We have a situation. Connor Mitchell is dead. Ashley's blood chilled. When? 40 minutes ago. But that's not the worst part. He got a message out before he died. A dead man's switch. Every classified document his network ever accessed is being uploaded to public servers. Everything. Submarine positions, SEAL team identities, nuclear response protocols. We have minutes before it goes worldwide. Ashley's hands flew across the keyboard accessing naval cyber warfare protocols. Can we stop it? We're trying, but the upload is spread across dozens of servers. Even if we stop most of them, one gets through and we're compromised. Ashley turned to Rodriguez. I need every cyber specialist on this ship in here now, and get me a direct line to Cyber Command. Rodriguez started barking orders while Ashley dove into the digital battle. The upload was sophisticated. Connor must have had help from someone with serious technical skills. Each server had different encryption, different triggers, different paths to the internet. It was like fighting a hydra. I've got partial blocks on servers 7 through 15, a young petty officer reported, having arrived and immediately joined the fight without questions. Servers 1 through 6 are speeding up uploads. Another specialist added. They're adapting to our countermeasure. Ashley saw it then, a pattern in the code, a signature she recognized. This isn't Connor's work. He had help. Someone's controlling this real time. She traced the signal back, following digital breadcrumbs through proxy servers and encrypted channels. The source was close, incredibly close. It's coming from aboard the Reagan, she announced. Rodriguez's team scrambled to pinpoint the location, while Ashley battled to slow the uploads. They'd stopped at about 60%, but classified files were still hemorrhaging into the digital wild. Morrison, who had been helping despite being under arrest, desperate to reduce her sentence, shouted. Officer stateroom 2. Ashley knew that room. It was 2 doors down from her assigned quarters. Go, Rodriguez commanded his security team, but Ashley was already moving, taking the stairs 3 at a time. She burst through the door to find her supposed roommate, the absent recalled reservist, surrounded by computer equipment. The woman looked up calmly, no surprise on her face. Hello, Admiral Walker. I was wondering when you'd find me. Ashley recognized her then. Lieutenant Commander Jessica Liu, but not the reserve officer her file claimed. This was Ghost 7, a former Neptune operative who'd gone rogue 2 years ago. Jessica, you're supposed to be dead. Death was liberating. Jessica replied, fingers still flying across keyboards. No more orders, no more restrictions, just pure capitalism. Connor's network paid very well for someone with my skills. Shut it down. Can't, won't. In about 90 seconds, the world will know everything. Every black op, every secret program, every lie we told to keep the sheep feeling safe. Ashley drew her concealed knife. Last chance. Jessica laughed. You always were too physical, Ashley. This is a digital war now. Ashley threw the knife, pinning Jessica's sleeve to the desk, then lunged forward. They fought viciously, 2 experts in close quarters combat, destroying equipment as they grappled. But Ashley had stayed active while Jessica had gone soft in her digital exile. In the end, Ashley had Jessica in a chokehold, but the upload counter showed 90% complete. Too late, Jessica gasped. You lose. No, Ashley said, making a desperate decision. She grabbed Jessica's primary laptop and initiated a protocol she'd helped design, but never thought she'd use. Scorched earth. What are you? Jessica's eyes widened in horror. You can't. That'll destroy everything. Ashley entered her authorization codes. Scorched earth was the nuclear option. It would destroy not just the uploads, but huge swaths of military digital infrastructure. Communications, navigation, weapons systems. Anything connected to the network would be fried. It would cripple the Pacific Fleet for weeks, maybe months, but it would stop the leak. Authorization confirmed, the system announced. Scorched Earth protocol initiated. All connected systems will terminate in 10 seconds. You're insane. Jessica struggled harder. You'll destroy our own capabilities. Better than giving them to our enemy. Ashley held Jessica tight as the countdown continued. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Protocol executed. Every screen in the room went dark. Throughout the Reagan, systems began failing. Lights flickered to emergency power. Communications died. Navigation computers crashed. In bases across the Pacific, military networks suddenly went silent. But the upload bars also died at 94%. The most critical secrets, the ones in the final, most encrypted packages, never made it out. Jessica went limp in Ashley's arms, defeated. You destroyed everything to save 6%. That 6% contained the identities of every undercover operative in Asia. Ashley replied, their lives are worth more than some temporary infrastructure damage. Security forces finally arrived, taking Jessica into custody. Rodriguez looked at the destroyed equipment, understanding dawning on his face. You triggered Scorched Earth. That's why everything just went dark. Ashley nodded tiredly. Court-martial offense probably, but it was the only way. Over the next hours, the full scope of the damage became clear. The Pacific Fleet was effectively deaf and blind. Communications down, satellites offline, computer systems fried. But emergency analog backups kicked in and slowly order was restored. The data that had leaked was bad. Technical manuals, some operational plans, maintenance schedules. But the crown jewels, the operative identities, the nuclear protocols, the submarine signatures remained secure. Ashley stood on the Reagan's bridge as dawn broke over Yokosuka Harbor, watching recovery teams work to restore basic systems. Captain Thomas Anderson, the Reagan's commanding officer, stood beside her. Was it worth it? He asked. Crippling our own fleet to stop a leak. Ask me in 10 years. Ashley replied. If our operatives are still alive, if our submarines still have the element of surprise, if our enemies still have to guess at our capabilities, then yes, it was worth it. Marcus King approached with a secure satellite phone, one of the few communication devices still working. Admiral, Director Hayes for you. Ashley took the phone, prepared for the storm. Admiral Walker. Hayes's voice was carefully neutral. The Joint Chiefs want your immediate return to Washington. There's going to be an inquiry. I understand. Unofficially, half of them want to court-martial you. The other half want to give you a medal. The president is undecided. And the network, completely destroyed. Jessica Liu's testimony is revealing connections we never suspected. Contractors, politicians, even some flag officers. This goes all the way up Ashley. All the way. Ashley absorbed that. The conspiracy she'd uncovered on the Ford had been just the tip of a massive iceberg. How many other Connor Mitchells were out there selling secrets for profit or ideology? What about the Ford personnel? The ones who helped? Commendations all around. Chief King is getting a Bronze Star. Ensign Torres is on the fast track for intelligence work. They did good. And Connor Mitchell, how did he die? There was a pause. Suicide, but we think it was forced. Someone got to him, convinced him triggering the dead man's switch was his only option. We're investigating. Ashley looked out at the rising sun painting Mount Fuji in the distance. There's more to this. Connor wasn't smart enough to set this up. Jessica was the technical side, but someone else was running the operation. Someone high enough to access multiple ships, multiple networks. I know, that's why we need you back. The president is authorizing a new task force. Operation Aegis. Complete counterintelligence review of the entire Pacific Fleet. You're being put in charge, even after Scorched Earth. Especially after. You've proven you'll do whatever it takes to protect our people. That's what we need now. Ashley ended the call and turned to find Captain Anderson watching her. You're Admiral Walker, the Neptune's Hammer commander. She nodded. My nephew was one of the hostages you saved in Somalia. I never got to thank you. No thanks necessary, Captain. He straightened to attention and saluted. It's an honor. Word spread quickly through the Reagan. Within hours, Everyone knew that the mysterious Commander Coleman was actually Admiral Walker, that she'd sacrificed her career to stop a massive intelligence leak, that she was the same operator who'd spent 3 months undercover on the Ford, enduring harassment and abuse to catch traitors. As Ashley prepared to leave for Washington, sailors lined the passages. Not officially, not ordered, but spontaneously. They stood at attention as she passed, rendering silent salute. These were the people she'd protected, the ones whose lives would continue uncompromised because she'd made an impossible choice. Rachel Torres was waiting at the quarterdeck, having somehow gotten permission to fly over from the fort. "Admiral," she said formally, then broke protocol to add, "Thank you for everything. Take care of yourself, Ensign. The Navy needs officers like you. Ma'am, what you did, scorched earth. Won't they crucify you for it?" Ashley smiled slightly. "Probably, but that's the nature of this work. We make impossible choices, and live with the consequences. Sometimes saving lives means sacrificing everything else." As the helicopter lifted off from the Reagan's deck, Ashley looked back at the two carriers, the Ford and the Reagan, sitting in Yokosuka Harbor. Both had been infiltrated, both had been compromised, but both were still afloat. Their crews still safe, their missions still viable. The flight to Yokosuka Air Base took 30 minutes. From there, a military transport would take her to Washington, and whatever judgment awaited. But as Ashley settled into her seat, her secure phone buzzed with a new message. It wasn't from Hayes or the Pentagon. The source was anonymized, the encryption unfamiliar. "Admiral Walker," the message read. "Connor Mitchell didn't kill himself. He was murdered to trigger the dead man's switch. The person responsible is still active, still has access, and knows you're coming. Watcher 6. A friend." Ashley deleted the message, but memorized every word. The conspiracy she'd uncovered was larger than anyone realized, and someone very powerful was still pulling strings. Connor and Jessica had been pawns, just like the others. The real enemy was still hidden, still operating. She pulled up the classified files on her tablet, beginning her review of Pacific Fleet personnel. Somewhere in these thousands of records was the traitor, someone senior enough to coordinate across multiple ships, connected enough to protect the network until now, and ruthless enough to murder Connor Mitchell to trigger a failsafe. The transport began its taxi to the runway, and Ashley felt the familiar sensation of a mission beginning. She'd lost her cover, probably lost her career, possibly lost her freedom depending on how the inquiry went. But none of that mattered. She had a traitor to catch. As the aircraft climbed into the morning sky, Ashley's phone buzzed again. This time it was official. A message from the president himself. "Admiral Walker, your actions saved countless lives at great personal cost. Whatever happens in Washington, know that your country is grateful. The inquiry is necessary for public accountability, but privately you have my full support. There's more at stake here than anyone realizes. Trust no one, except those who have already proven themselves. The enemy is closer than you think. POTUS." Ashley smiled grimly. Even the president suspected the conspiracy went deeper. That meant her real work was just beginning. The transport reached cruising altitude, and Ashley opened a new file on her tablet, beginning to write her report. But her mind was already working through possibilities, analyzing every interaction from the past months, looking for the pattern that would reveal the true enemy. Someone had used Connor Mitchell and Jessica Liu as weapons. Someone had nearly exposed every secret the Navy held. Someone was still out there planning their next move. Ashley would find them. It might take months of investigation, years of patient hunting, but she would find them because that's what she did. She found the enemies hidden in plain sight and eliminated them before they could strike. The flight to Washington would take 14 hours. Ashley had work to do. She began with a simple question. Who had the most to gain from the chaos? The answer, when it came, would shake the entire military establishment to its core. But that was still ahead. For now, Ashley Walker flew toward an uncertain future, carrying the weight of secrets that could destroy careers, end lives, and reshape the balance of power in the Pacific. Behind her, the sun rose over Japan, painting the ocean gold. The Ford and Reagan sat at anchor, wounded, but not defeated. Their crews went about their duties, unaware of how close they'd come to complete compromise. And somewhere in the shadows, the real enemy watched and waited, planning their next move in a game that was far from over. Ashley closed her eyes, seeing Connor Mitchell's face in her memory. Angry, desperate, ultimately just another victim of someone else's ambition. He deserved justice, not death. She'd failed to protect him, even as an enemy. That failure would drive her through what came next. The inquiry, the investigation, the hunt for the truth, all of it was necessary. Connor Mitchell's death would not be in vain. The transport flew on through empty sky, carrying its lone passenger toward a reckoning that would determine not just Ashley's fate, but the future of American naval security in the Pacific. In her pocket, the encrypted phone buzzed one more time. Ashley didn't check it immediately, but she knew what it would say. The patterns were becoming clear, the connections revealing themselves. The traitor had made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed Ashley Walker would follow protocol, accept the official story, let the bureaucracy handle the investigation. They didn't know her at all. Ashley opened her eyes, pulled out the phone and read the new message. As expected, it was another piece of the puzzle, another breadcrumb leading toward the truth. By the time she landed in Washington, she'd have a plan. By the time the inquiry concluded, she'd have evidence. And by the time the traitor realized their mistake, it would be too late. The game was far from over. In fact, it had just begun.
3 weeks later, Ashley stood in a secure conference room deep beneath the Pentagon. The inquiry had been brutal but brief. The evidence of prevented catastrophe outweighed the infrastructure damage. She'd received a formal reprimand for unauthorized use of scorched earth protocol, immediately followed by a classified commendation for preventing the largest intelligence leak in U.S. naval history. But more importantly, she'd been given new authority. Operation Aegis was now fully operational, with Ashley as its commander and a hand-picked team of investigators, cyber specialists, and operators. "Ma'am," Marcus King entered, now wearing the insignia of a senior chief, his promotion fast-tracked after the Ford incident. "We've found something." Ashley looked up from the files she'd been reviewing. "Show me." Marcus connected his tablet to the main screen. Jessica Liu's interrogation revealed she was recruited 2 years ago by someone calling themselves Neptune. She thought it was ironic given your task force designation. "Not ironic," Ashley said quietly. "Deliberate. Someone has been using our own operational names against us. There's more. We tracked the payments to Connor's network. They went through dozens of shell companies, but the original source," Marcus highlighted a data point, "Enigma Defense Contracting. They're legitimate on paper, provide maintenance and technical services to the Pacific Fleet." Ashley studied the corporate structure. "Who owns them?" "That's where it gets interesting. The CEO is retired Vice Admiral Jonathan Cross." The name hit Ashley like a physical blow. Cross had been her mentor, the one who had recommended her for Neptune Task Force Command. He'd retired honorably 3 years ago, citing family reasons. "That's impossible," she said automatically. "Ma'am?" "His son is Commander Ethan Cross, the F-35 pilot on the Ford who harassed me during the undercover operation." Ashley's mind raced, connecting dots. Cross knew I was investigating. His son was feeding him information. "It's worse than that." Marcus pulled up financial record. "Enigma has contracts worth $800 million across the Pacific Fleet. They have personnel on every major vessel, access to all maintenance schedules, all technical manuals. They're perfectly positioned to steal and sell information." Ashley stood, pacing to the window that looked out over the Pentagon's inner courtyard. Jonathan Cross had been a legend, decorated combat veteran, brilliant strategist, father figure to dozens of junior officers including herself. "If Cross is Neptune," she said slowly, "then he's been planning this for years. He retired at the perfect time, set up the perfect company, recruited the perfect pawns." "Ma'am, what do we do?" Ashley turned back to Marcus. "We need proof, real, undeniable evidence. Cross is too well connected, too respected. If we move without solid proof, he'll destroy us and disappear. How do we get it?" Ashley smiled coldly. We give him exactly what he wants. Me, destroyed and desperate, looking for any port in a storm. Marcus, I need you to leak something for me. Over the next days, Ashley carefully orchestrated her own downfall. The leak suggested she was being made a scapegoat for scorched earth, that she was facing criminal charges, that she was desperate for allies. She made sure the information reached Enigma Defense Contracting through channels Cross would monitor. The response came within a week. A meeting request from Jonathan Cross himself, framed as an old mentor checking on a struggling protege. They met at an upscale restaurant in Georgetown, public enough to seem safe, private enough for sensitive conversation. Cross looked exactly as Ashley remembered. Silver-haired, distinguished, radiating paternal concern. Ashley, he embraced her warmly. I heard about your trouble. It's wrong what they're doing to you. Sir, she let exhaustion color her voice. I did what I thought was right. You saved the fleet, Cross said firmly, and they're crucifying you for it. Why? As they ate, Cross skillfully probed her state of mind, her financial situation, her future prospects. Ashley played her role perfectly, the disillusioned officer betrayed by the system she'd served. You know, Cross said casually over dessert, Enigma is always looking for experienced personnel, someone with your skills, your knowledge. You'd be invaluable. I'm under investigation. No contractor would touch me. Ashley, Cross leaned forward. Ashley, you're like a daughter to me. I hate seeing you suffer for doing the right thing. What would you need from your expertise, your connections? Help us understand fleet weaknesses so we can better protect them. It was smoothly done, an offer of help that could be interpreted completely innocently if recorded. But Ashley heard the underlying message. I need time to think. She said, of course, but Ashley, Cross's expression hardened slightly. Be careful who you trust. The people who threw you under the bus won't hesitate to destroy you completely if it serves their purposes. After Cross left, Ashley activated the micro recorder she'd worn. The conversation was suggestive, but not conclusive. She needed more. That night, her secure apartment was broken into, professionally, leaving almost no trace. But Ashley had expected it, had left carefully prepared false documents, suggesting she had evidence against Cross hidden but findable by an expert. The response was immediate. A text from an unknown number. We should talk privately. Tomorrow, midnight, Pier 7. Ashley knew it was a trap, possibly a kill order. Cross had decided she was too dangerous to recruit, too dangerous to leave alone, but it was also an opportunity. She arrived at Pier 7 with a full tactical team in overwatch positions. Marcus King was in a sniper position. 3 Navy SEALs were underwater beneath the pier, and a drone provided overhead surveillance. Cross was waiting, but not alone. 6 men, all armed, all with the bearing of special operations veterans. I'm disappointed, Ashley, Cross said without preamble. I offered you everything, and you were going to betray me. Ashley dropped the pretense. You betrayed your oath, your country, everyone who ever looked up to you. I served for 35 years. Cross's composure cracked. 35 years of watching politicians waste our lives, our resources, our potential. Do you know how much we could have accomplished with the money they spent on failed programs? So you decided to sell secrets to our enemies? I decided to monetize information that was already compromised. Every technical manual I sold, China already, every deployment schedule, Russia was already tracking. I just made sure someone benefited, specifically the people who actually did the work. Connor Mitchell is dead because of you. Cross shrugged. Connor was weak. When he was arrested, he became a liability. His death was necessary to protect the network. You had him killed. I had him convinced that triggering the dead man switch was his only way to strike back at the system that betrayed him. His choice, ultimately. Ashley felt rage, but kept it controlled. And Jessica Lu, a useful asset, who outlived her usefulness. Though I didn't expect you to trigger scorched earth. That was impressive. Destructive and insane, but impressive. It stopped your leak. It delayed it. Cross pulled out a device. You see, Jessica's upload was just the first wave. I have copies of everything, and in exactly 1 hour, unless I input a code, it all goes public. Everything, including some files even Jessica didn't have. Files about Task Force Neptune's real operations. Files about you specifically. Ashley's blood chilled. Her classified operations. The things she'd done in the shadows. If those became public, it wouldn't just end her career. It would compromise ongoing operations, endanger assets, possibly start wars. What do you want? Originally, to recruit you, your access, your reputation, invaluable. But now, Cross smiled coldly. Now, I just want you to disappear. Walk away tonight forever. New identity waiting. 10 million in an offshore account. Complete extraction to a non-extradition country. And if I refuse, then everything releases and you become the most hated woman in America. The one who destroyed the Pacific Fleet with scorched earth, then failed to stop the real leak. They'll blame you for everything. My network, the conspiracies, all of it. I've prepared evidence chains that lead directly to you. It was masterfully done. Cross had been planning this for years, possibly since before his retirement. Every contingency accounted for, every angle covered. Except one. You know, Ashley said conversationally, your son Ethan is quite talkative when properly motivated. Cross went rigid. What? We arrested him 6 hours ago. Conspiracy, treason, and murder. Specifically, Connor Mitchell's murder. He's already confessed to delivering your message to Connor, to convincing him to trigger the switch. You're lying. Ashley pulled out her phone, showed Cross a video. Ethan in an interrogation room, crying as he detailed his father's crimes. He held out for about 20 minutes. Ashley continued, then we explained that cooperation was his only chance to avoid a death sentence. Amazing how quickly family loyalty crumbles when facing lethal injection. Cross's hand moved toward his weapon, but Ashley was faster. The shot echoed across the pier, not from her but from Marcus's sniper position. Cross's weapon spun away as he grabbed his wounded hand. The device. Cross shouted to his men, trigger it manually, but his men didn't move. In fact, they were slowly raising their hands. Did you really think, Ashley said, as Navy SEALs emerged from concealment, that I'd come here alone? Your men are smart, Jonathan. Smart enough to know when they're outgunned and outmaneuvered. We offered them deals an hour ago. They all accepted. Cross looked at his men in disbelief. You betrayed me. You betrayed us first. One replied. We thought we were patriots working to reform the system. We didn't sign up for treason and murder. Ashley approached Cross, who had fallen to his knees, cradling his wounded hand. The upload device is a fake, she told him. We replaced it 3 days ago when you had lunch with Senator Williams. The real one's been in NSA custody since then. How did you know? Because I trained under you. Remember? You taught me to always have contingencies, always expect betrayal, always be 3 moves ahead. She knelt beside him. I learned from the best. Unfortunately for you. Cross looked up at her, and for a moment she saw the man he used to be. The officer she'd admired, the mentor she'd trusted. I was trying to save us, he said quietly. The whole system is corrupt, Ashley. Politicians selling us out. Contractors stealing billions. Enemies laughing at our weakness. I was trying to fund a real defense. A shadow network that could actually protect America by becoming the very thing you claimed to fight against. Ashley stood. You became the corruption, Jonathan. You became the enemy. As security forces took Cross into custody, he managed one last comment. This isn't over. I'm just one player in a much larger game. They'll come for you, Ashley. The ones above me. The ones who really run things. You have no idea how deep this goes. Ashley watched them drive him away, knowing he was probably right. The conspiracy she'd uncovered stretched beyond military channels into political offices, corporate boardrooms, intelligence agencies. Cross was a big fish, but there were whales still swimming in the deep. Marcus approached. Ma'am, we've secured all Enigma facilities. Initial assessment shows they had assets on 17 ships, 4 bases and inside 3 intelligence offices. And the actual intelligence they stole, recovered, most of it anyway. Some had already been sold, but we're tracking the buyer. Ashley nodded, exhaustion finally hitting her. Months of investigation, weeks of planning, days without sleep. It was all catching up.
Ma'am, Rachel Torres appeared, now wearing Lieutenant Junior grade insignia. Priority message from the Pentagon. Ashley read it twice. The president was personally requesting her presence immediately. The Oval Office at 3:00 in the morning was surreal. President Harrison stood by the window looking older than his years. Admiral Walker, he said without turning. Sit, Ashley. Jonathan Cross, named 17 senators, 43 congressmen, and at least 12 federal judges, as being aware of or complicit in his network. Ashley wasn't surprised. How many are actually involved? We don't know yet. Maybe all. Maybe none. Cross could be lying to create chaos. The president finally turned. I need someone I can trust to find out. Someone with proven ability to work in the shadows. To sacrifice everything for the mission. Sir, I'm military, not intelligence. You're whatever I need you to be. Harrison moved to his desk, pulled out a folder. Effective immediately. You're detached from standard naval operations. Your new assignment is classified beyond even Neptune protocols. You report only to me. Ashley opened the folder. The scope of authority it granted was breathtaking. Access to any military or intelligence resource. Immunity from prosecution for any action taken in pursuit of the mission. Unlimited operational budget. This is a hunting license, sir. It's what you need to clean house. The president's expression was grave. Cross was right about one thing. The system is corrupted. Not entirely, but enough to be compromised. I need someone to cut out the cancer without killing the patient. And if that's not possible, then we do what you did with Scorched Earth. We burn it down and rebuild. Ashley stood, came to attention. I accept the mission, sir. I knew you would. Harrison smiled tiredly. Cross underestimated you, because he trained you. He thought he knew your limits. He didn't realize that your greatest strength isn't what he taught you. It's your willingness to sacrifice everything for the mission. As Ashley left the White House, dawn was breaking over Washington. The city was waking up, unaware that a war was being fought in its shadows. A war for the soul of American defense, for the integrity of its institutions. Her phone buzzed. Marcus King. Ma'am, we have a problem. 3 of Cross's buyers just went dark. Someone's cleaning house. Eliminating witnesses. Ashley smiled grimly. Cross had warned her. There were players above him. Powers that wouldn't tolerate exposure. They just declared war on her investigation. They had no idea what they'd started. Ashley Walker had spent 3 months being humiliated as a civilian contractor. She'd destroyed her career to stop an intelligence leak. She'd taken down her own mentor to protect national security. She'd already sacrificed everything. Now she had nothing left to lose, and that made her the most dangerous person in Washington. The real hunt was about to begin. 6 months later, the headlines told only part of the story. Largest corruption scandal in military history. 73. The public knew about the espionage ring, the stolen secrets, the corporate connections. They didn't know about the shadow war that had raged through Washington's power structures. The silent battles in parking garages and penthouses. The chess game played with human lives. Ashley Walker's name appeared nowhere in the coverage. Officially, she didn't exist anymore. Her naval record sealed. Her identity classified beyond any normal protocol. She'd become a ghost. A whisper in intelligence circles. A cautionary tale told in the highest echelons of power. But in a small bar in Virginia Beach, where Navy SEALs gathered to drink and remember, her story lived on. They didn't know the details. Most were classified beyond their clearance. But they knew the important part. They knew about the admiral, who had endured 3 months of humiliation to catch traitors. They knew about the officer who had destroyed her career to save lives. They knew about the ghost who'd brought down one of the most powerful corruption networks in American history. And sometimes late at night, when the bar was nearly empty and the conversation turned to legends, someone would raise a glass to the empty chair they always kept at the end of the bar. To Admiral Walker, they'd say quietly, still on mission, because they knew, even if the rest of the world didn't, that Ashley Walker was still out there, still hunting, still protecting those who would never know she existed. The war in the shadows never ended, but neither did she. And somewhere in the darkness, between democracy and chaos, between loyalty and betrayal, Ashley Walker stood watch. Silent, invisible, unbreakable, the guardian no one knew they needed, the warrior who had already sacrificed everything, the ghost who refused to let the enemy win. Her war continued, would always continue as long as there were secrets to protect and enemies to hunt. She'd accepted that burden, embraced it, become it. Ashley Walker was dead to the world, but the mission lived on. The mission always lived on. Admiral Ashley Walker's story is more than just a military thriller. It's a profound reminder of the silent sacrifices made daily to protect our freedom. Never judge people by their appearance. The woman Connor Mitchell despised, humiliated and tormented, was the very person protecting the entire fleet. The scars and imperfections we mock might be signs of noble sacrifice we know nothing about. The story also teaches us about the price of true loyalty. Ashley Walker accepted sacrificing her reputation, career, even her freedom to complete the mission. That's genuine service. No glory needed, no recognition required, just the mission accomplished. In our interconnected world, threats don't always come from outside enemies. Sometimes the greatest dangers come from within, from those who've forgotten their oaths, who prioritize profit over patriotism. Ashley's willingness to expose her own mentor shows that loyalty to principles must supersede personal relationships when national security is at stake.